Yeah, good morning, Sansino. We're gonna try and finish chapter 9, Perek Tes. We saw the whole Avimelech is gonna go and wipe out the rest of his family, except he always misses one. There's always the kid that you missed. Yotami puts a curse on him, and then he gives this unusual parable, and people listen to Avimelech or not, and the last thing we saw in Pasuk Chaf Aleph was that Yosem runs away and he goes to Be'era, a place called Be'er, and he's there. He runs away from Avimelech. Okay, so now Avimelech is in charge. So it's Pasuk Chaf Beis 22. Vayasar. It's not Vayashar. Vayashar would be he's saying Vayasar, another unusual word because like the word sar, Sar v'shofet aleinu, so he lords over them. Avimelech al Yisrael shalosh shanim. So he has 3 years. Now, in contradistinction to the other shoftim. Now, this is the interesting question. Would you call Avimelech a shofet? I mean, kind of usurped the rule, but he's in the book.
But that's what we said, like he's not considered the first king.
And
who was he king of?
Right, so he's not the king, and he's not, but is he a shofet? Probably. I mean, I think, meaning like in the official count, but he's in the book of Shoftim, and the Shoftim are the people that ruled over the Jewish people during this period, and he did rule over them, albeit through perhaps ill-gotten means. I don't know. So it's an interesting conversation that some of the Mefarshim have, but he lords over the Jewish people for 3 years. Vayishlach Elokim ruach ra'ah bein Avimelech uvein ba'alei Shechem vayivgedu ba'alei Shechem ba'Avimelech. So, okay, whereas the Shoftim, when they settled all their issues, they rule 30 years, 40 years. So he gets 3 years. 3 years before the natives become restless. But here we see that, and it's interesting that Hashem intervenes here, and it says that Hashem sent a Ruach Ra'ah. What is a Ruach Ra'ah? So you say it's an evil spirit. Rashi just says it's sinna. That's hatred, which is, that's a pretty evil spirit, I guess. It's
What is it?
Strife, like, yeah. So he interestingly, when you wash, and when the first thing you wake up in the morning, right, you have the nails water. Right, Nagelwasser. It's one of the better funny words that we have in Judaism, Nagelwasser, right? Which even if you don't speak any English, people know that word, kind of Nagelwasser. Well, there's a few Yiddish words that we all know. Nails water. Why it's called that? Okay, but one of the reasons that you wash in the morning is because when you go to sleep, you have what's called a ruach ra'ah on your hands, and this is to wash off the ruach ra'ah. That's usually the first thing that you do. That's why some people even keep the Nagelwasser and the basin under your bed, right? If you watch Shtisel,
that's in the movies.
Yeah, it's like that's how they know. Like there's some things that got really spot on. Really, really, they did very well. Anyway, so Hashem then causes the spirit of ill will, they say, okay, between Avimelech and the inhabitants of Shechem, because remember that's where he was Shechem, and then it says that they Vayivgedu, the word boged is to betray, to turn against, right? To be a backstab or something like that. So they turn their backs because that's what happens. Now, lavo chamas shivim b'nei Yerubal v'damam lasum al Avimelech achichem asher harag osam v'al bal Shechem asher chizku es yadav laharag es achav. So much so that they betrayed him so that the violence against the 70 sons of Yerubal would come back upon him, and their blood would be placed upon Avimelech, their brother, who murdered them, and upon the inhabitants of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to murder his brothers. In other words, everybody's going to get what is coming to them. Because he killed his family, and he caused the people of Shechem to turn against the other people. Like, everything's going to come home to roost. Everything's coming full circle. This is going to be, by the way, just full disclosure, somewhat of a graphic story in terms of what happens to Avimelech at the end. So, big.
If God was going to make this malicious sentiment. Why didn't he do it before Avimelech killed the 70 brothers?
Because it doesn't work like that, right? Like God doesn't work like that. God doesn't, and maybe this is all part of, and why did God do it though? Like if we believe in free choice and all that and make it, but maybe because of the curse that Yotam put upon him, that had to come true at some point. So Hashem is letting that happen, but he's also, he doesn't make it happen. He just puts the conditions there, and let's see how they deal with it. So interesting. Also, the word in Chavdal lavo chamas. Okay, it's one of our words that like makes our blood crawl these days. But chamas is a certain type of cruelty or lack of societal order that creates a breakdown. So the first time that we see it is in Parshas Noach. It says that one of the reasons God destroys the world is because of Hamas. Kimulo haaretz Hamas mipneihem. And they say that it's a certain type of stealing, which is actually the next thing that happens, right? So al roshei vayasimu lo baalei Shechem me'arvim al roshei harim vayigzilu es kol asher yavar lehem badarach v'yigal Avimelech. So the inhabitants of Shechem, they set up ambushes against them on the mountaintops, but anyone who would pass them on the road, they would rob them. They were marauders. And they told us to Avimelech. Look, I would love to see like the terrain there. I mean, I've seen Shechem and what it looks like, but there are like mountains and valleys. Like I described last week, if you go to the city of Nablus, don't go there, but you can go on top of there. You see there's mountains on each side, so you could see where they would have this sort of vantage point where they could then perhaps assault people who as they were going through, and it was probably a major travel route as well, which we saw when we studied the story of Yosef and his brothers, and they're coming, let's say, towards the Via Maris, and they're going to come across the plains. Fine, there are people coming and they're marauders. So they are. So there's problems. The people of Shechem, they're robbing each other. They're robbing the innocents. Avimelech finds out what's going on. Now we're introduced to a new guy. Vayavo Gaal ben Eved. So then somebody named Gal, son of Eved. So also the modern Mefarshim, they always point out, like, look at the names. Gal, Eved. Some say Gal is one of the words that people use for vomit. It's gross. It's ugh. As they say in Hebrew, in modern Hebrew, ichse. Right? Is that right? Maybe right? Ichse? Right. Right. So maybe give me a nod, so it's good. Ani I Paron. The son of Eved. Even by the way, and it's going to come up now, which kind of reminds you of all this. When do we first hear of Shechem? Right? In the story of Dinah. Dinah and Shechem. And who is Shechem's father? What's his name? This is extra points. Shechem ben, one of the great biblical names of all time, which if you ever
Is it Hamor?
Thank you, Chamor. Thank you, Tina. Shechem ben Chamor. Could you just imagine, like somebody like picking a biblical name? Like there are some names that we kind of like scratch our heads about, like, and they have the bris and the gather and shul, Vikare, Shema, Yisrael, Chamor. What? Okay. It's interesting that in the Gemara and in the Mishnah, we find many, many great sages with the name Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael, there's Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha was the Kohen Gadol. The Gemara tells a beautiful story about Rabbi Yishmael ben Gemara and Brachos and Daf Zayin about Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha, and he goes into the Kodesh Kodashim and he sees like the Shechina, he sees Eliyahu Navi, and like it says that God asks him for a blessing. Amazing Gemara. Look it up. Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. So Vikar Yishmael Yisrael, Yishmael. Like, what? Call me Ishmael? Are you kidding me? Right? But why it's not a name anymore, I don't know. I once gave a shiur about, in Israel, it's very popular. You don't hear it here as much, but the name Nimrod. Nimrod is fairly popular. And but Nimrod is not as bad as we kind of think, and we have this negative association, but it's not as bad. But the names are important. So Shechem ben Chamor is going to come up actually right in a couple of psukim. So this guy Gaal, who's gross, and he is the son of Eved. Gotta wait for the collectina. And she's so excited to come in. Anyway, so he comes in, and this is a guy that I could see this guy. I could be into this guy. This guy Gal. So these people of Shechem were easily swayed. Like, what's the next best thing? What's the latest fad? Vayetzu hasadeh, vayivtzu es kamehem, vayduchu vayasur hilulim, vayavo beis Elohehem, vayachu vayshtu vaykolos Avimelech. So they went out to the field, they harvested their vineyards, they tried their grapes, they made celebrations. By the way, like that word hilulim, hilula, it's coming. It's Lag BaOmer is coming this week. The hilula of Baruch Chai, that's where it's from. And they came to the temple of their God. They ate, they drank. And what do you do when you have a good festival and you're eating and you're drinking? You curse the boss, the guy who's in charge, who's making your life miserable. And they cursed Avimelech. Okay, so we can see where this is going. Vayomer Gal ben Eved mi Avimelech mi Shechem ki navdenu halo ben Yerubal ozvul bekido if do us an Sheikh Tamar avishchem adu navdenu anachnu. He says Gal ben Eved. Who is this Avimelech guy? Who is Shechem? Like what? Why are they in charge? What do they have? What have you done for me lately? Isn't he the son of Yeruval? And Zvul is his officer. We're going to be introduced to Zvul shortly. But Zvul, like, these guys are nothing. He's making fun of them. Who are you? What are you? By the way, this is the guy that murdered his whole family, almost. Like, that's how good he is. Go serve. In other words, might as well serve the people of Chamor. Let's go back to the time of Yaakov Avinu and serve. Here it is, Chamor and Shem. Right? Why would we serve him? Shem ben Chamor. So, like, the names are just phenomenal here. Eved, Shem, Chamor. Okay. Why should we serve him? So it's Pasuk Chavtes. If only someone would give the people into my hand, then I would get rid of Avimelech. So he says to Avimelech, reinforce your army and come out. In other words, show me what you got. Avimelech, and that's the typical, when you have these battles, people are unhappy, and there's a rabble-rouser, and he assembles a private army of some sort, and he gets enough people to support him, and they start, hitzing everybody up, another Yiddish word, by the way, and they start getting everybody all excited. They're like, why am I paying this guy? Let's rebel. You want
He's also against Shem.
Yeah, Shem is Shem. So Shem is throughout this whole ordeal. Remember, there's the people of Shem, and then there were the elders of Shem. Avimelech convinced the elders of Shem to go along with him. So ostensibly they're the ones that had the votes and everything. But he's like, maybe talking about the people of Shem, or I don't know, it's probably the elders that he's going against that he convinced to be with him. So let's rally the people. I'm a man of the people. Now, here we have this interesting. Now we get introduced to Zvul. Zvul, by the way. Zvul, what is Zvul? Right? Zevel. Right? We have a saying in Hebrew, Zevel Lava. It's like white trash. Yeah. Really, Zevel is fertilizer, but what's fertilizer? Fertilizer is fertilizer, right? Yeah. Are you done? You're done with me? Okay. So I can go all day like that. It's a disease. I can't. I'm seeking treatment. I'm taking shots.
Did the name come first and then the meaning, or the meaning came first?
So it's in the modern Mefarshim, they often suggest that the names are almost placed there to like give us this almost like this character trait, good and bad. I mean, the meaning's there. I don't think the meaning is because of the name. I don't think so. But because we see other places where the words are used, but to give them those names, and it's almost like a description of the character, and which is very clever, because when we look at it as sort of this living, breathing, dynamic text that like gives us so much, and we kind of find ways to make it speak to us. So sometimes the character names themselves are really, and you find a lot of literature like that. The first time, the first time I ever discovered that is when I saw the movie Stand By Me. Great movie. I think half the cast is dead. They died by the time they were 20, whatever. But if you watch Big Bang Theory, then you understand the main character in Stand By Me, because Gordo, who's a well-known character in Big Bang. Okay, forget. Anyway, but one of them is like his name, the bully hero of the story's name is Chris. Like his last name is LaChance. like he's like it just speaks. It's like I'm like, oh, like that's not really his name. That was really
And so many characters have like initials JC, like all over literature.
Yes, yes, yes. So
Here's-
so here's an interesting little tidbit of information that my beloved son, he should just not make me crazy, but his name is Charles. He has a lot of names because there were a lot of people that had to be named for by the time he came around. His name is Charles Jason. My grandfather was Charles Klibanoff, so we have now a Charles Klibanoff. There are no other Klibanoff males. He's a lot on his shoulders. Jason is my wife's uncle, very close to us. He died too young. And his Hebrew name was named after my wife's grandfather, Moshe Yehuda. So my wife wanted to call him Jason Charles. And I said, I am sorry, you are not giving my kid the initials JC. It's just not happening. She's like, but I'm like, no, it's not happening. So that's why he's Charles Jason. CJ. Okay. CJ is much better than JC. Yes. Plus Charles Klibanoff. Anyway, that's the one thing I ever got. Anyway, so Zvul hears Zvul Sarair. So he's like the governor or the one who's in charge. Avimelech isn't there, but you have to have a guy in charge. So he has his ear on the ground. What's going on? Vayishma, Estivrei Gal ben Eved, Vayichar. He gets angry. Obviously, he's like pretty upset about this. Vayishlach malachim el Avimelech bitarma lemor. Hine Gal ben Eved ve'echav ba'im Shechema ve'hinam tsarim esa'ir alecha. So he sends messengers to Avimelech. He says bisarma, like quietly. It's an unusual word also, bitarma, bisarma, and meaning that he's like in a lower place. Some say, if you look at the Mefarshim, but they say it's related to the word mirma, tarma and mirma, that he did it secretly, did it stealthily, and he says, by the way, Gal, the son of Evan, and his landsmen, they're coming to Shechem and they are strengthening the city against you. So here's what we're going to do. Rise up at night, you and the people are with you, and let's set up an ambush. Erov is an ambush. Aleph, Resh, Beis. Tashkim ufashata al ha'ir v'hinehu v'ha'am asher ito yotzi melech v'asisa lo kasher timtza yodecha. And when the morning comes and the sun shines, you're going to rise early. You're going to spread out by the city. And then just as he and the people that are with him are going out towards you, you're going to do whatever your hand finds. In other words, whatever you can. You're going to take care of business. So Avimelech gets up, and all the people that are with him, they get up at night. They set an ambush on Shechem, 4 different Rashim, 4 different vantage points, 4 head places, 4 companies, however you want to define that. Vayetze Gal ben Eved vayamod Pesach Sharair, vayakam Avimelech v'amashar ito min ha'ma'arav. Gal, the son of Eved, he goes out, he stands at the entrance of the city gate. I guess that's what you do in the morning. Like, when you go out, you pick up the morning paper. You walk outside, every scene of Tony Soprano walking out to pick up the morning paper in his bathrobe, and you walk out, you do the stretch, you look at the landscape, make sure there's no feds in the driveway or something, right? I'm sure that's exactly what happened. Exactly, right, exactly, clearly. I'm just happy nobody watches this because I get in a lot of trouble. Then you know who watches it religiously, by the way? Dalila. Oh my God, she has hi Dalila. She has a great comment every time, something to say. It's really makes me feel good. Anyway, so he goes out to the city gate, what a day, what a beautiful day. And Avimelech and the people, they go and they're ready for the ambush. Vayar Gal es ha'am vayomer el Zvul hine am yored mirashe harim vayomer lov Zvul es tseil harim haTorah kanashim. Now this is really interesting. Is that Gal saw the people and he says to Zvul, look, there's people coming from the mountaintops. And Zvul says, no, you see those are shadows. The fact that they're talking to each other is weird. Like they're having this, they must be buddies, they know each other, and they know that. So he's what do they say? Keep your friends close, your enemies closer. If you want the real Godfather Torah, it's the Haftorah and Parshas Vayechi. That's the real Godfather Torah. At the end of Godfather 1 is completely the Haftorah Vayechi. And David Avimelech, and he says, take care of business. This guy you got to take care of. That guy you got to take care of. This guy you can let him stay, right? Today we settle all family business. So he says to him, oh, they must be having a talk. And he's like, I see people up in the mountains coming down. He's like, you obviously didn't sleep a lot last night. That's not people. That's the shadow of the mountains. he's getting ready to dupe him really well, right? And Vayomer love, I'm sorry, Vayosef od Gaal daber, Vayomer hine am yodim me'im tabur haaretz, V'rosh echad ba miderech elon me'onanim. And he continues to speak Gal, and he's like, no, there's people coming from, it says, Me'im tabur haaretz. Here they say the navel of the land. Like they're coming from like Mittendren, and they're there. And one company is coming by the way of the plains of Me'onanim. And Vayomer love Zevul aye efo picha asher tomar mi Avimelech kina avdenu halazeh amal shem astabo tzena atabilachem bo. So Zevul says to him, "Oh, when is your mouth who says, oh, where's this Avimelech that we should serve him? Isn't this the people that you scorn? So here they are. Go out and battle. You asked for it. Here they come." And he's in his pajamas, like Paro in his pajamas. I hope everybody sings that song at the Seder of Paro in pajamas, right? Okay. Vayetze Gaal lifnei Baal Shechem vayilachem Avimelech. So Gaal goes in front of the inhabitants of Shechem, and they go to battle, and they fight with Avimelech. Vayir defeu Avimelech vayonas mipanav. Now, I guess when we're thinking about this, we would think, oh yeah, Avimelech is bad. Gaal is the new guy, and he's going to win. That's not really what happens. Avimelech chases him away, and he runs away. Vayiplu chalalim rabim al pesach hashar. And there's a lot of chalalim. Chalalim are corpses. There are a lot of dead people at the entrance of the gate. Vayeshev Avimelech ba'aruma vayigarach Zvul as Gaal ves echav misheves b'Shechem. So Avimelech settles in a place called Aruma, and Zevul, he drives out Gaal and his kinsmen from living in Shechem. So they have squashed this rebellion for the moment, and they have chased them away, and a little subterfuge, which is not the first time that we see this type of subterfuge taking place, and they take care of business. You ask for it, we're going to bring it. Here you go. Fights on, fights over. Next. Vahimi macharas. Now, on the next day, on the morrow, Vayetze ha'am hasadeh, the people went out to the field, Vayagidu la'Avimelech, and they told this to Avimelech. Vayikach es ha'am, vayechetzem l'shlosh roshim, vayerov b'sadeh, vayar b'nei am yotzei min ha'ir, vayakam Allah em vayakim. So he took his people, he divided them into 3 companies, and there's another ambush in the field, and he watched as the people were leaving the city, he rose up against them and struck them. In other words, you can't be too sure. You have residents, you have people that may have sided with the enemy, you have to take care of all the business. You can't just leave anybody hanging around. V'Avimelech v'harashim asher imo pashtu v'yamdu pesach shar ha'ir, u'shnei harashim pashtu al kol asher basadeh v'yakum. So Avimelech and the companies that were with him, they spread out and they stand at the entrance of the city gate. All these cities have entrances and city gates, and we see that all the time and throughout. And the other 2 companies that spread out against were all in the field and struck them. And look what in other words, to make sure that nobody's going to come back, look what he does. Avimelech nilcham ba'ir kol hayamahu vayilkodes ha'ir v'esam asher ba harag vayitotzet ha'ir vayizro'eha melach. He fights against the city all day. He occupies the city. He kills the people that were in it, and he tears down the city, and he sows it with salt.
So that they can't come back and make it not arable.
Correct.
They can't plant anything there.
Right. You want to render. In other words, you want to.
So it's literal.
Yes. When so this is an agricultural city area, and you want to make sure. Well, no, there's no reason for them to come back.
I think it says implanted it.
Implanted. Okay. You want to make sure when you do a job, you want to make sure not only that you chase the enemy out, but that they have no resources when they come back.
They chased him out, not killed him, in terms of Gaal.
Gaal, yeah, we don't. He ran away somewhere. I don't think we hear from him again. But a lot of people are dead here. There's gonna be there's a lot more people gonna die. Don't worry. If your thirst for blood is not yet quenched. Oh, that's coming.
So this is.
No, there's gonna be some cutting. No, there's gonna be some head injuries coming up.
But of the
So what town is this, Aruma?
Aruma. This is when they went. Yeah, they went to the adjacent field of Aruma. Yeah, and he wants to, but he has to finish driving Gaal and his supporters out of Shechem. All the people that supported Gaal have to be now driven out of Shechem. So we saw this now. If you remember that when when the whole Middle East landscape changed virtually overnight a few months ago, and all of a sudden Assad is gone, and this guy, which is like, there's a great picture of him being greeted by the Prime Minister of France, who wouldn't let Bibi Netanyahu come in, but he'll let this guy come in. It's like, okay, we don't have this guy who was Al Qaeda, and he puts on a suit, and all of a sudden he's a mensch. Not sure what to make of him, but Israel's not taking any chances. So they went and they destroyed, like 90% of whatever weaponry was left in Syria, with impunity, because who's going to stop them? And because you don't know who the next guy coming in is. And the next guy coming in, well, we don't want to give him any toys to play with, so they got to wipe out everything. Like, you know what? You don't leave anything to chance. Getting rid of the guy is not enough. You got to get rid of the infrastructure, which is the battle that we're fighting right now. Okay, fine. Melach. Vayishmu kol baalei migdal Shechem, vayavo el tzriach beis el beris. So now the inhabitants of the tower of Shechem, there is the city, and then there's like the outside of the city, it's a place called the Tower of Shechem. Maybe outside, so they can have a vantage point, that they have this place, a Migdal. It's not unusual to see these places called Migdal. We have lots of cities in Israel called Migdal, Migdal Emek, for instance. If anybody ever had any interactions with Rabbi Grossman, the disco rabbi, as he was known, one of the great figures of all time in modern Israel history. So the residents of Migdal Shechem, they came to the citadel of Beit El Berith. You want to know where all these conservative synagogues get their names from? They're all here. Berith, and Berith is with a, I can't wrap my head around with the Berith with the TH. Huh? Avaf, yeah, it's like, it's like, yeah. Remember that movie on Golden Pond? What's your name? Ethel Thayer. Sounds like you have a lisp, right? Ethel Thayer. Vaya, again, still trap of mine for absolute nonsense. Don't ask me what I ate for breakfast this morning. Vayugad la Avimelech ki yiskapsu kol ba'alei migdal Shechem. So now Avimelech hears, okay, there's still more people you have to take care of, and they are in the Migdal of Shechem. Vaya'al Avimelech hart Salmon, hu v'chol ha'am asher ito, vayikach Avimelech has hakar dumos biyado, vayichros shilchas etzim, vayisa'eha, vayasem al shechmo, vayomer al ha'am asher imo, mar isem asisi, maharu asu chamoni. How do you, if people are fortified in a tower, how do you get to them? Right? So they don't necessarily have, I guess they could try some sort of projectiles, this and that, but how do you ultimately get to them? If you can, but let's say you can't, you don't have the,
Cut it down.
if you could cut it down, if you could. So look what he does. He's kind of, you got to smoke them out. Remember George Bush said, we're going to smoke them out. So look what he does. So he goes to Mount Salmon. Everybody that's with him, they took the axes that were in their hand. They cut down the branch of the trees. He lays, he takes as many as he can, puts it on his shoulder, and he says to the people, you see what I just did? Everybody do that. He's a leader, leads by example. Okay. And vayichrasu kol ha'am, gam kol ha'am ish socho, vayelchu acharei Avimelech, vayasimu al hatzriach, vayatzisu aleihem es hatzriach ba'esh, vayamusu gam anshe migdal Shechem, ke'elef ish v'isha. So everybody cuts down branches, they follow Avimelech, but they place them by this citadel, and they set the citadel on fire. And all the people of the Tower of Shechem died, about 1,000 men and women. Now that's pretty gruesome. The Towering Inferno. That's a movie that used to scare me to my core whenever it was on TV. That between the Towering Inferno and the what was the ship one that turned upside down with Gene Hackman? Poseidon Adventure. Those are like Sunday afternoon movies that were always on Channel 5. Scared the heck out of me, right? Poseidon Adventure, and then Gene Hackman, Allah Shalom, one of the great actors, and the Towering Inferno with this building on fire, like really scary. And then they always used to once in a while show the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. That story also horrible. But here they bring 1,000 people. You know what it's like to have like that, and this is war. So they chase them out of the city. Okay, they're hiding in this tower. We're gonna go after them there. Let's burn them down. And then we have the last part of the chapter, which is really, really interesting. Vayelech Avimelech el Tevetz. He goes to a place called Tevetz. Here in English, they write Thebes, Thebez. Like we're in Greece or something. I don't know. And they camped, and then they vayichan betevetz vayilkadah. They encamp in this place called Tevetz, and they have now taken over. They conquer it, and they're occupying the place. Umigdal Oz haya b'socha. They have a tower, but it's not just a tower. And Migdal Oz is also, there's a yeshiva in the Gush called Migdal Oz, a girls' yeshiva, and it's a very, very strong name. The name means strong tower, but it's given with purpose, that name. Migdal Oz. When we make, by the way, we make shul names, anytime there's a breakaway shul, it's always called like Ahavas Achim, Ahavas Shalom, Achim Bereim, we love and kisses. Like, it's never like I hate you or you stink or you guys are don't know what you're doing. It's always like, oh, Reim Ahuvim. Like that's how we do breakaway shuls. So they have this strong tower in the middle of the city. Vayanusu shama kol ha'anashim echol ba'alei ha'ir vayizkru ba'adam vayilu agag ha'migdal. So they know Avimelech is coming. So what do? You fortify yourselves in this tower. Now, sometimes it can work. Sometimes these towers are impenetrable. Sometimes that's why they have, these big castles and they have a moat around them and they have enough provisions to last. Like that was the story of Masada, that they thought they could last for how long, and they did last for some time. I'm not sure. There's probably a lot of conversation about why do we romanticize the story of Masada. That was another great TV movie that they made back in the day. Like, why do we I'm gonna make a bar mitzvah on Masada? Like, why in the world would we make a bar mitzvah on Masada? Like,
I
It's
had
changed
to
so
argue
much.
with
There's
my
so
husband
much
every
controversy.
time. Like, no, like, why Masada?
this is not
This is it's very controversial.
very controversial. Yeah, it's like I understand that it's like they kill themselves and they kill each other so they can kill themselves and like, yay, let's throw candy and have a bar mitzvah. Why didn't you do Peter's bar mitzvah there? Why? I mean,
Sorry, I didn't think.
I can't imagine why, right? Right?
Yes,
Or
we'll fly now.
yeah. Like if you make it, then you get to eat lunch, right? It's yeah. I don't know. Netzach Yisrael Shaker. I get it if they want to have like an army tekes or something, to show like this is how we're going to show our strength and not end up like that. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know, that's my own thing. Masada. It's fun to walk up and see it. It's cool. It's a cool place, but that's about it. So they go up to Gag HaMigdal, vayizgru ba'adam, and they lock themselves in and they climb to the roof. So what do you think he's going to do? He's going to try and do the same thing. Vayavar Avimelech ad HaMigdal, vayilachim bo, vayigash ad Pesach HaMigdal l'sarfo ba'esh. So Avimelech comes to the tower, and he's going to do battle. And he comes to the opening of the Migdal, and he wants again to burn it with fire. Now, I guess they're not made completely out of stone. I guess they had things that were flammable. Okay, they didn't think about that when they built it. Batash. Now this is like really, really of all things. You want another story of a heroic woman, a heroic unnamed woman. We saw the story before about Yal Eshes Chever Akeni. When you're in a tower and people are coming up at you, they have a whole vast supply of things to throw down at attackers. Big rocks, garbage, sewage, you name it. So this woman, Vatashleich Isha Achas Pelach Rechev Al Rosh Avimelech Vataritzes Gul Golto. She throws down part of the upper millstone, not to be confused with Upper Montclair, but the millstones were two stones that were together. So she's like, I guess she's some strong woman. She takes this big heavy stone and she chucks it on Avimelech's head. Oh, and by the way, it hits him and crushes his skull because he wasn't wearing a helmet that could withstand the force of a stone from an upper millstone. Now, as great as that is,
Like David and Goliath.
a little bit, but this is even better. Because what's the worst thing that can happen if you're a warrior?
Be hit by a woman.
Correct. Because why am I late to dancing? It's so embarrassing. So look what happens. So, exactly. Vayikra Mehera. He calls Meher El HaNa'ar. No Sekei Love. There's always the Na'ar. This is his. He does. Oh, I thought you guys were cheating. Right. See that? I love that. He calls his squire. There's always the Nar. There's the Nar Mishari says Moshe. Yehoshua's the Nar, and he's sorry, what? Okay. And he's the guy that's carrying his equipment, carrying his weapons. Vayom, not dead enough yet. He's almost dead. Vayomer lo shalof charbecha umoseseni pen yomerli isha haragasahu. Really interesting words here because shalof charbecha. So we've seen this a few times. Shalaf charbecha. We saw it with Yehoshua and the angel, and a few times that to somebody drawing the sword is a common thing. But he's like, but usually it's like against him. He's like, draw your sword. Umoseseni, that's a word you're not going to see. Like you would say vitamitosi and harm me, but he's like umoses, and you will then kill me. Why? Pen, lest, God forbid, we don't want anybody to know that a woman killed me. So vayid karehu, doker is to puncture.
What irony, now we're reading about how really a woman killed him.
Yes, but she didn't.
Right.
Ha!
She injured.
She
him.
maimed him severely.
He would've-
Yeah, so this is an interesting question, by the way. This is just hold that thought. So Vayidrek, he spears him. Dakar is to really lance and pierce and penetrate with the blade, and he dies. In halacha, would that just a theoretical question? Would that person be liable for murder if a guy already suffered pretty much a mortal wound? He's gonna go. I mean, he's got a short time left. That's why he says, Vayikra Mehera El Hanar. He calls the kid quickly, right? We didn't have the luxury. Like he calls him quickly and he says, "Listen, kill me now." If that in that instance, are you liable for murder?
I guess you know how I would rule.
How would you rule?
And it's the woman who killed him.
Just because it was a woman? Let's say it was a man that did that. I'm just asking a theoretical question.
That would be
She
manslaughter.
she didn't finish the
wouldn't be
job
murder.
because she had him killed.
But meaning, would you be able in the eyes of halacha, American law, civil, whatever? That's a whole other question. I have no expertise in that. But somebody's falling off a building to certain death, and you shoot that person.
Is there a mercy law? I'm asking, halachically.
You mean
is
those kids in Japan? Euthanasia.
there- No.
I'll be here all week. What?
The Siyum, you should. just
Yeah.
go For the Siyum at our shul, Elon's like, oh, there's different, Rabbi Klibanov's giving one. Should I go to his group? You like learning with him, don't you? I said, I really do.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
be prepared."
Yeah.
For the sarcasm.
Yeah. But it's an interesting halacha question, which is the Gemara actually discusses. If
But
you
is there, I'm
Is there
asking them, is
conclusion?
there, in other words, like, to Paulette's point, this woman throws the upper millstone, whatever.
short answer is no.
No, there is no mercy. So technically he is liable.
Yes.
Doesn't matter the circumstances.
Even if you take
are, he
1
is the
second
liability.
off, if you take 1 second off someone's life, even though he only had 5 seconds left.
Right.
But then it really goes like, but who killed him?
Both of them.
But really
But
not.
he's
It's
part of
really,
it. I mean, he did it.
yeah, because it says, Vayid karehu vayamos. He killed him by stabbing him.
If he hadn't done it, then she would have been the killer.
Hey, but I'm looking more at the person's actions.
Understood. but-
Right, and there's cause and effect, and then there's ma'aseh and totza'ah was
He's
the
one
acts.
death.
In other words, yes, he would have died anyway, but he died a little quicker
He died
because of
alone.
the mortal stab wound, as opposed to the mortal head wound that he got from the
In
millstone.
those days, breaking someone's skull was definite death. There was no one to put it back.
Correct, but he's still alive enough to tell the kid to kill him
Quickly.
quickly.
Well, he knew.
Yeah, he knew he
that
was-
he was
He
dying.
said it was
Yeah.
a dying
But he
breath.
put a very long sentence together, so he
Yes.
obviously had enough wherewithal.
This is such an unusual story. Let's just finish the chapter and we can discuss this a little more. Vayu ish Yisrael ki meis Avimelech, vayilchu ish l'mekamo. So they see now that Avimelech is dead, and then they're like, okay, now what do we do? All right, I'm going home. That's it. Like,
Pretty quick.
all right, we had a good run. See ya. Wait for the next one.
Get out of here.
Vayashev Elokim Esther Asa Avimelech Asher Asol Aviv Laharog Ashiv Mechav. So now, because Hashem started this plague, now bring this full circle. Vayashev. Therefore, Hashem repaid the evil of Avimelech that he had done to his father by what? Because he killed his 70 siblings. Ve'ez kol ras anshe Shem heshiv Elokim rosham v'tavo lehem kilas Yosam ben Ruval. And also the evil of the men of Shem, Hashem heshiv al rosham means it comes back to hit you on the head. And in his case, for Avimelech, quite literally. And then, therefore, the curse of Yotam came to fruition. I mean, but what is this? What's really happening here? What's the chapter really about? I mean, this is the longest chapter we've had, by the way. 57 psukim. 57 psukim about, so what is this? What do you take from it? What's really happening? Like what happened? It's like in the big picture of the book of Shoftim. I mean, this is the first incident that we have of a succession in place, where Avimelech was going to take over for a parent, even though he did it, through like whack ways of killing everybody. But succession is not always the answer, right? Succession is very, very hard. Anybody who's ever been in a family business, anybody who's ever been in anything where they talk about succession, happens in shuls, like people like the rabbi's son should take over. Oh, God forbid. No, that's never a good idea. I mean, sometimes it might be for the community, it might be, but like Hasidic Rebbes in Hasidus, they fight over it. Which son? This son? He meant that son. No. Especially if there's no clear plan of succession in place, what to do. The succession model doesn't always work, and it's almost like the text is making fun of it. All these weird names, all this crazy circumstance. Oh, you're going to be so strong. Yeah, a woman is going to take you out with a stone on your head. That's what's going to happen. And in contradistinction, what?
So you said it was the woman.
I did say that. Of course I do. I'm a big fan of women. I'm surrounded by them. I have been for years. Sometimes my son and I would just hide, or like, you want to go to the supermarket? Yeah, okay, I'll see you in 4 hours. The contradistinction between the previous leaders and this is just meant to be so stark, so strong, because we're showing you there are models of leadership that work, and there's obviously models of leadership that won't work. And might is not always right. Look, sometimes we need to have strength. We need to have strength to take care of our enemies, but it has to be God-driven, God-inspired. And this person called himself, it says he named himself, according to many Mefarshim, he named himself Avimelech, which is so brazen. I am, Avimelech, the father of the king. I call myself Melech. Like, nah. Everything that you think, that you plan, that you have in place, Hashem says, and that's why we have here, which we don't see in other places, the insertion of Hashem's will, or Hashem's sort of like, when we talk about Yad Hashem, divine providence, usually it's behind the scenes. Anochi aster aster espanai. But here the text inserts Yad Hashem to say, here it is at the beginning, I'm sowing the seeds of discord, and at the end, by the way, everything's going to come back to roost, and you did wrong is going to get paid for you, and you did wrong, you're going to get paid for, and the curse of this one.
Why got involved in the beginning where it says that he, made the.
Because we had to make that curse come true. And also, I think it's exactly to show this model, that this model doesn't work.
No, I understand, but why did the curse have to come?
But the model was cursed before it started because Edom didn't end his life in this positive way.
Well, I'm not sure if it's a reflection on Gidon.
Right, but,
Is it?
but as a succession plan, like.
Well, they never had one. There was never a
So-
succession plan.
but-
Because everyone, up until now, they were all chosen by God.
So we once had a very lengthy share about going from Moshe to Yehoshua
Right.
and why that
Right.
was. So Moshe ended his life at least on a high. Like didn't even. Why would
But-
anyone want his kid?
But all those cases where we've had succession were all God appointed.
Right, but why would
Even
we-
Moshe and
but-
Yeshua.
But so not. Why would we even want someone like
We don't.
who's not
That's the point. We don't,
End
but
his
he,
life on a high. Why would we want his kid?
we don't. But the people fell for it and they paid for it.
Why would Hashem stop picking?
I don't know. I mean, I think, well, this didn't last that long. This is only a 3.
Understood, but
right,
if
so-
he's done it until this point.
Right.
why
That's a
would
good question. I don't know. Maybe the lessons have to be learned. And maybe that's why Hashem is involving himself here in the text. It's saying, oh, and Hashem, like, okay. I don't know. It could be. I'm just saying, there's no clear answers to this, but it's definitely meant to get your attention as to, like, wait, why is the chain broken? Why is the pattern broken? And why are we inserting Hashem's name into this, both the beginning and the end of the story? These are things that we have to pay attention to when we read this text that, like, should jump out at us and say, wait a minute. But maybe that's the message. That's exactly the message is, yeah, this doesn't work. Stick to the script. We'll see what happens going forward next time. And as we do the other shoftim. Again, the further we go on and the further we go away from Yehoshua and Moshe, the more complicated the stories get and the more fraught they are with human foibles, etc. Until we get to the
Yeah,
story
all the
of
way through, like,
Shimshon.
this.
I'm saying, but we get to, like, even in this book, we get to, like, Shimshon, right? There's 20 chapters, 19 chapters. There's 21 prakim. We're not even halfway through, and, like, wow, we're getting like, this is fest. This is, like, really rich with a lot of communal lessons that we could have both in leadership and both as community followers. So we'll see next time we get into Tola ben Puah and Yair Hagiladi, and it says here, the new cycle begins. So there's lots more to conquer here, but this is really exciting. So, and by the way, I hope everybody had a good Mother's Day. Yes.
Again,